So this was definitely the best and worst episode of the season. We had a lot happen. Stuff finally happened, and we kind of found out some stuff that we may have already knew. Mm-hmm. So we'll go into a recap of it and kind of go over what happened during this episode and give you our thoughts, kind of opinions on stuff. But first, we're two Lore Geeks. We like doing recaps and theories on our favorite TV shows and movies in the sci-fi, fantasy realm, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, and whatnot. So if that's something that interests you, be sure to hit that subscribe button on the channel. It definitely helps us get our videos out there and support the channel. So definitely do that, and we'll jump right into this recap of the Severance Season 2 finale.
Wow, it was an extra long episode, which was great. We had a couple of short ones in there in this season, and it was just packed with stuff. And we learned a lot of things. There's still a lot of things we don't know, but we learned a lot. We saw some interesting choices being made. It was so good. I think it was easily the best episode of the season. I think we have some differing opinions on the end of it. We'll get there. But wow, it was so good, especially because a couple of the episodes had been, well, at least one of the episodes had been like not so great, but it was so good. And so we started off right where we left off. Exactly where we left off at the last episode with Any Mark seeing Cobell, who he knew as Cobell, and like, why are you here? What are we doing? And then we go into this entire dialogue of Any and Outie Mark talking, and honestly, I feel like
with a camcorder.
Yes.
Through a camcorder. It
was done so well. The acting was so well. The way that they just chose to do everything was so good. It could have been done badly. It could have been really stupid, but it wasn't. Mm-hmm. It wasn't. It could have been. It was so good that you, for whatever reason, you wanted to just sit there and watch this guy. And there's a lot of conflict going on.
There's a lot of conflict
in Any Mark and Outie Mark,
as you called,
which understandably, I think, because Any Mark is kind of like, well, I don't want to die, and then Outie Mark is like, well, we can integrate, and then Any Mark is like, but it's going to be mostly you, mm-hmm. which is the truth, and plus he doesn't know if he should even believe him
or how it even works.
Outie Mark doesn't really know how it works either, not 100%, because it hasn't been going super well for him. So
plus Any Mark is in love with Heliar, so that he's trying to make the point of, well, I love Heliar just the same as, you love your wife.
It's probably not the same since Mark's been with his wife for
years. Well, that's why Any Mark is trying to convince.
Yeah, he's trying to say it's like, it's not exactly the same, because really we have to think about the fact that this is Helena Egan, but still, it's still very understandable that he is so conflicted about what to do, and we kind of leave that situation not knowing what he is going to do. We
jump right into Helly. She's at she's in their office, and then James Egan comes in, starts talking to her.
Really interesting conversation, actually. He was saying how he didn't see Kier in her. I cannot remember how he worded it, but his other children, he didn't see Kier in them, but he saw it in Any Helly, which actually I think leaves us with a lot of questions for next season because of how it ended, but we'll get to that later. But that was a really interesting scene, and then she acted like she was gonna attack him.
Yeah,
but
with a pin.
She didn't, or couldn't. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I don't know if something was stopping her. It really wasn't clear, but he left and was telling Helly that something great was going to happen, right?
Yeah, which we assume is talking about Cold Harbor being finished. And one thing that it seems like the whole point of this Sever thing is trying to do is to bring about a life where you don't have pain, you don't have bad memories, you don't
no emotions.
or you don't have, like, your trauma is forgotten, you know, and that's, we've kind of seen that with, like, the birth center place and them not remembering that, or even, you know, they had these really terrible jobs, the Ennies did, but they don't remember it, and so I think that's the goal, and they're trying to get there with Gemma, like, showing, because what did they say, like, it's holding
the barrier is holding.
The barrier is holding, because again,
it's suppressing.
We'll get to it, but like they were putting her into these bad situations, like the dentist or whatever, and seeing if that would not be forgotten, and then what today was like kind of the final test. So
So after we get the whole thing with Jaime and Helly, we go back to the birth center. Cobell, you know, Mark was telling Cobell that be back at Lumen in front of the doors so he could finish Cold Harbor, which is what Cobell basically told Mark to do.
They had to finish it first, and then they had to go, and, you know, Mark was like, oh, we already have the map, and he did, and then he went out the door, and he showed up at Lumen, which is what he said.
And very interesting, whenever he shows up, you know, the elevator doors open.
Or whatever.
There's a painting of Mark being like a savior and finishing, you know, the final piece of Cold Harbor, which is apparently what Lumen is just concerned about.
Well, like I said, I think it's finding that point where, you know, like they said, the barrier is holding, like, this, it's working, and this was like the last test to see if they could make her forget, basically. And speaking of weird,
definitely can't predict what comes next.
Kier animatronic. If you want to call it an animatronic, because it wasn't a very good one, you know, you just didn't know what you were going to get with this episode. You had animatronics, you had weird paintings, you had.
Well, remember when the whole Kier thing started, we thought that they were pumping gas into the.
We did. We did. We thought they were going to kill them, and then that's not what it was. Then the marching.
We have the whole Kier animatronic thing, and Milchick is just being like really disgruntled with him, saying that he's not as tall as.
But like, we really wanted, or at least I really wanted, to see fully disgruntled Milchick. Like,
fully unhinged.
I wanted to see fully unhinged Milchick, like fully switch sides, and that didn't happen.
Not yet.
But he did. Not in season 2. It didn't happen. But he did say something about the Kier animatronic being 3 inches shorter, or 5 inches shorter, or whatever it was. You know, there was a couple of snide comments, but I mean, in the end, we see that he's still very much Lumen through and through, at least for now.
Lumen loyal.
So very Lumen loyal for now. But it was funny to see those moments of him kind of calling them out on their stuff. So.
Yeah. So then, you know, we go to a scene with Gemma where she has her old coat from, you know, her Audi life.
Well, from what she was wearing whenever she died.
Yeah.
And so I think that was part of seeing if this was all going to hold, seeing if, you know, that was going to trigger something in her. And it did. You know, before she went in, it did. You could tell she was kind of upset about it. But then
whenever she walks out of the...
Yeah, whenever she goes into her other...
Then the Severance chip takes over again.
But does it? We'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to that.
So there's that whole scene, and then we get to a nice little Dylan scene. Milchick brings him the letter that his, you know, they had the resignation thing, the form that he signed. Well, his Audi denied it.
No, he didn't deny it.
He didn't deny it, but he gave him a letter, you know, saying just a big long paragraph thing. But whenever Milchick brings it in, he's like, you know, this may be emotional or something, and then he
runs out. That was funny.
Out.
Anyway, it was nice to have a little bit of comedy in a very serious episode, but him running away.
Yeah, but the whole the Audi letter to.
That was
Dylan,
so good.
It was nice.
It was so good because it gives you hope for Audi Dylan because he's such an ass.
Mm-hmm.
And you see his wife actually seems like a good person and just wants him to be kind of how he used to be. And then that's where she sees Annie Dylan as like who he was before.
Yeah, because the reason Audi Dillon was mad because he wanted to be what any Dillon was, so that's why he was kind of having that whole meltdown. But I think he came around to it, and so he gives any Dillon a choice.
Whenever everything is just going crazy and it's seemingly distracting Mark and Helly with this marching band and all this
the whole
stuff. And
so Mark finishes Cold Harbor. He gets a whole celebration thing, and then the marching band comes in as choreography and was it choreography and something else? But it was a whole thing. And
it was a whole
Milchick
thing.
was leading it.
And then it seemed like they were maybe trying to distract them.
Yeah.
And so...
Oh, yeah, it was definitely a stall. Yeah. Stalling for time.
Yeah. So Helly goes and grabs the radio and puts it in the toilet, which apparently that's a very terrible piece of technology because that just ruined it entirely.
I guess.
And then they lock Milchick in the bathroom, and she somehow, very small Helly, is holding the door. And then the marching band, meanwhile, is just
they're just
going on about their day.
Yep. That's what they do.
But eventually, Dillon comes with the vending machine, from who knows where.
I don't know where it was.
And they're trying to keep Milchick locked up so that Mark can go and rescue Gemma, and this last room that she's supposed to go in, it's super empty, but it has a crib in it, and that's obviously going to be a huge trigger for her because she couldn't have a child, and she tried to for a long time. And they tell her to take it apart, and she's doing it, and she's having no emotion, So they're all thinking this is
the barrier's holding.
Yes, this is going super well.
Until it isn't. While Helly and Dillon are distracting. There's just distractions everywhere. Distracting Milchick, and the marching band's helping nor doing anything besides playing music. While this is going on, Mark is running down the hallway, checking the map to see where he needs to
go.
Trying
to find Gemma.
And then he gets to where he needs to be, but he's not at the place. So there's a hidden door in the wall, but he goes to the opposite side where there's a door actually is. He's trying to bang on it and everything. While this is happening, Drummond and Brienne, or whatever her name is in the show, I don't remember.
Brienne of Tarth.
Drummond and Brienne, she brings him a goat.
So we found out what the goats have been used for, which is terrible. They're tempers for the different, whatever. And I was so pissed. I'm like, if they kill this goat, so help me.
Show's canceled.
Show's canceled. I'm not gonna watch them kill a baby goat, which I didn't figure they were gonna.
No.
But obviously, whatever her name is, I'm sure she has a real name on the show. The goat keeper doesn't really want the goat to die. She's asking how many more do there have to be, and
And my first thought was that they were using the goats to store the consciousness or memories of the people. Isn't that
what they were doing though?
Maybe somebody can explain.
We are so prepared today.
Maybe someone can explain.
I thought that it was part of that, taking that and using the
goat doesn't get killed, fortunately, and
because Mark and Drummond are this was actually kind of violent. It got super violent, really violent, which the show typically isn't. But Drummond is just beating the shit out of Mark,
but Mark's holding his own until he isn't, and getting.
Mark's not much of a fighter,
getting very choked out.
The goat keeper lady, Brienne of Tarth,
comes with the gun.
Comes and then Mark's like, no, don't do it. I'm like, come on, Mark, seriously, shut up,
Just
kill this guy.
It.
We hate Drummond. Drummond is so awful, which should have, but it's fine. Eventually, so then he starts pummeling, the goat keeper, and eventually they get control of him, and Mark is like, take me here, but then they get in the elevator.
And, they're going to go down to the level where they need to be.
Annie Mark
has the gun to Drummond's, neck, and they get in the elevator, and we're like, oh, well, this is not going to go well.
This is not good. And it doesn't, but it does in a way, but also it doesn't. And then it's like, kabam, Drummond is very dead, very graphically I mean, it was pretty gross. Like from a show where we don't see that a lot. You know, this isn't Game of Thrones. This isn't whatever where you're seeing like violence all the time. That was pretty disgusting. But hey, it's fantastic that he had all that blood from drumming on him because turns out he's going to need it. He finds the Cold Harbor room. He sees it like sticks your finger to let you access it.
Yeah, draws the blood.
Yeah, and
he's like, oh.
Quite conveniently, he has Drummond's blood all over him. So he does get in there, and this is where it gets super interesting to me because Gemma listens to him. But there is part of her that believes him. And I think that's very, very, very important because this whole time you have Jane and Dr. whoever, Dr. Weirdo that are like, this is working. Then they're like, no, because it's clearly like she's listening to him.
Yeah.
He's like, come with me, you know, and she did. And I think that says a lot to maybe this doesn't work 100% because she believed him and she didn't have to. Later, she is Miss Casey.
When they're in the elevator, they're kissing.
And he's Mark.
Yeah.
And they're like, what?
She's like, what's going on here?
What are we doing? Because then she's Miss Casey. And then, you know, he's back to Mark, and Mark has to get her out of there. And this is where he was dying, I think, a little bit with this. So they get to the door. Hopefully. We don't know. We don't know if they can get out 100%.
Yeah.
That's kind of an unknown. The assumption is yes, but we don't know.
Well, yeah, so they go through the door, the stairwell, the door that cuts off the Severance.
Yeah.
And Gemma gets out, and then she's back to, being Gemma.
Regular Gemma.
Mark just stays in there.
And he's over here having an absolute meltdown / heart attack because Helly shows up for whatever reason.
She's the one that told him to get out.
And that was where it was a little bit confusing to me because she's the one that said, like, yeah, go save her, go get out. But maybe, here's the thing that I'm thinking. Maybe there is some of that Helena Egan in her because...
Well, she was a version of...
Well, because think about it, her dad said he saw Kier in her as Heliar, and then also at the weird, like at the Chinese restaurant or whatever it was,
the weird
Helena is there, talking to him,
flirting,
and like kind of flirting weirdly. That scene made me think maybe there's more Helena in Heliar than we think.
Well, my whole thing was like, if the floor is locked down, where are they going to go?
Well, also they're innies. They don't they could think of 3 places that exist on Earth. The equator, like what was Zimbabwe. Like it was
something else. Denmark.
They don't know a whole lot. So can you blame them? He had to make a choice, and he had to choose. No, being mindful that this is Mark. This isn't Outie Mark. But Mark is fully aware that Outie Mark is married to Gemma. But in my opinion, I think that he saw that he did his duty to Outie Mark getting her out. He just isn't really thinking, I guess, that like getting her out for Outie Mark does no good if Outie Mark isn't there.
Yeah. And whenever he is going to be forced to go off the severed floor, he's not going to be any Mark.
But he's like, no, go and leave, go.
And so they run off together, running down the flashing red hallway.
But the whole time, you were like, go back, you have to leave.
What are you doing?
I said it's because you choose your wife every time. But anyway. I agree with you. On a personal level, it was heartbreaking that she's there, like, pounding on the door. Yes. Like, for me, personally, I'm like, damn, he should have gone to her.
But it wouldn't make for a good TV
That's
show.
exactly what I said after. I said, but that would have made for not as good of a season 3. That's my opinion. Like, personally, yeah, I think he should have gone to his wife. I think that was the right thing, obviously. Running off with Heliar / Helena Egan on a severed floor, like, where are they even going to go, was really stupid. But also, it's going to make season 3 so much more interesting.
Oh, and
if he just would have left with Gemma.
We didn't even talk about Milchick being held hostage by Dylan in the marching band. Dylan's the leader of the marching band now. He's got the marching band army.
And I think we also didn't mention that they tried to appeal to them, like, they give us a life and it's not even really life. We don't have decisions. And so that was an interesting piece of it too.
Mm-hmm.
And those people in that marching band, those Annies, were really thinking kind of the same thing, like, because they ended up helping him.
Mm-hmm. Lots of stuff to come up on season 3.
Yeah, we'll probably have to maybe rewatch or something and do another video really going into more depth, because there was just a lot.
There was a lot going on. But what a finale that was.
I'm really excited for season 3. I think there's a lot of questions that are still unanswered. A lot of questions that were answered, but a lot that are unanswered. And I think one thing you said as soon as it was over, was like, next season's going to be Gemma trying to get Mark out. It's just the exact opposite. It's his choice made for a much more interesting start to season 3, even if it was a stupid personal choice.
So what would you give the episode?
Oh, I'd give it like a 10.
A 10?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I am very critical, so...
On a personal level, I'd give it a 0.
You're just such a good person. I get it. I get it.
A 9 or 10 overall.
Yeah, but is this going to make for a better season 3 level? Yes, it's a 10.
Yeah, so we'll have to see where season 3 leads, and, in the meantime, we've got Night of the Seven Kingdoms coming up. We're going to be rewatching House of the Dragon, doing episode breakdowns of season 2,
a little more in-depth,
was not as good as season 1.
Yes, but I think we need to rewatch it a little bit fresh and just see, because we know we are getting season 3, not for a while, but I think we're gonna watch those again, do little breakdowns of them, talk about what could be better, because there are some things that could be better, and then just try to get excited for hopefully a better season 3. But like you said, in the meantime, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, that's coming. We'll do tons of videos about that as soon as we know more. And George R.R. Martin said it is the closest adaptation to his work thus far, which to me is really exciting, because it's probably going to be really good. So, thanks for watching. What a great end to season 2 of Severance, and definitely looking forward to season 3 for sure. And like I said, any updates that come, we'll throw up a video and give you our thoughts. But if you're interested in videos like this, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more recaps, theories, and videos on our favorite TV shows and movies. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.